Morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Lots of topics to discuss on this morning's show. But before we get into that, please do me a small favour. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if this is your first time watching. We are literally on the brink of hitting 40,000 subscribers. So go and do that right now, bottom right hand corner. Doesn't cost you any money. And make sure to drop a like on the video as well. Let's try and see 500 likes on this episode. So on the show this morning, we are going to be reacting to a news story that has just broken saying that apparently Sporting Lisbon have reduced their price for Gyökeres. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about Atalanta's Edison, the midfielder, who apparently Manchester United are prioritising as the new midfield signing. Talking a bit about Mason Mount, obviously talking a bit about the game tomorrow against Bournemouth. As always, I invite you to get in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. Let's start off with talking about Gyökeres, shall we? And as always, I try and make my shows interactive. I would love to know your thoughts on Gyökeres. Would you like to see him at Manchester United? Is he the right person to get us more goals in that attacking line? 26 years of age. So far this season, he has played 14 times for Sporting Lisbon. He's got 18 goals and 1 assist. I mean, that's a very, very good record, isn't it? If you look back to last season, 33 matches, 29 goals, 10 assists, which is, again, an unbelievable record. And that's only in the Portuguese league. So if you look at his Champions League record, this season alone, he's got 5 goals in only 6 games this season, which again is absolutely phenomenal. So across all competitions this season, he's got 23 goals and 2 assists in only 20 matches. Last season, he got 34 goals and 12 assists. I mean, he's done very, very well, hasn't he, Gyökeres? And, you know, people will say, oh, but it's in the Portuguese league. I mean, he's doing it in the Champions League as well. Scoring 5 goals already this season in the Champions League in only 6 games. Does that mean he's the top scorer? Let's have a little look. Top scorers. I'm just checking if he's the top goal scorer this season in the Champions League. No, he's not. Lewandowski's the top goal scorer. He's the second after Lewandowski. So, yeah, he's doing very, very well. The news story that broke this morning is that apparently Benfica are willing to reduce their asking price for Gyökeres. And apparently the price that they're now mentioning in the media this morning, this is coming out from multiple reliable sources in the UK, saying that apparently Sporting Lisbon are willing to accept as little, I mean, obviously take this with a pinch of salt, £58 million. £58 million. I mean, I think that sounds like a good deal to me, to be honest. I think we paid around 60, didn't we, for Rasmus Højlund? Was it around that? Something around £60 million. We paid more than that anyway. Let me just double check that. 73 million euros we paid for Rasmus Højlund, which is in pounds, probably what, 68 million pounds maybe? I can never work out the conversion of euros to pounds off the top of my head. I always have to get... Okay, yeah, so I was right. It's 60 million pounds. So it's about the same amount of money as what we paid for Rasmus Højlund. And obviously, Gyökeres has, you know, been proving his worth for quite a long time, whereas Rasmus Højlund was more of like a potential player, wasn't he? He clearly is talented, Højlund, but he's not scoring 30 goals a season at the moment like Gyökeres is for the last 2, 3, 4 seasons. So I think he'd be a really good signing. I think we desperately need to strengthen our attacking line. Obviously, if Marcus Rashford was to leave the club, which it looks like he will, it will massively strengthen our financial powers in the transfer window. So, you know, let's look at it like this, right? If we were to say sell Marcus Rashford for 40 million, which I think is probably realistic, okay? 40 million pounds, I think that would be a fair price. Is it a good price? Maybe not. You know, if we could get 50, I think that would probably be better. But 40 million pounds for Rashford would then be 100% profit. And remember, with that, you can spread transfers over a certain amount of years. So say you bought Gyökeres and he was on a 6-year contract, which is probably what they'd give him, and it cost 60 million pounds. You could spread that 60 million pounds over the 6 years of the deal. Okay, bear with me here. So 60 million, I know I said 58 million, but I've rounded it up to 60 to make it easier to do the calculation off the top of my head. So Gyökeres, we pay 60 million to Sporting Lisbon for Gyökeres, right? Now, in relation to financial fair play, that transfer fee could then be split over the length of the contract. So it would be 10 million a season for 6 years if it was on a 6-year deal. Now, if we were to sell Marcus Rashford for 40 million, that would then be 100% profit, which would mean that we'd have 40 million to spend in that window. Does that make sense? But we'd only be spending 10 million on Gyökeres this year, 10 million on him next year, etc., etc. So, you could probably buy 3 or 4 players if you were to sell Rashford for 40 million profit and then spread the transfer fees of the other players you buy over like a 5 or 6 year period. That's how Chelsea bought so many players, because all of their deals have been spread over like a 10-year period. So, they might have paid 100 million for Enzo Fernandez, but they'll only actually on their books be paying 10 million a season for him because it's spread over the length of his contract. So that's how they get around it. So, there's all these people saying, oh, how the hell are we going to afford him? How is it possible? That's how it's possible. That's how football works these days. But the most important thing here is, if we were to sell Marcus Rashford, it will then make our financial situation a lot better, because obviously he's come through the youth academy. We've never paid a transfer fee for him, and it would be then 100% profit on the sale of him. And the thing you also have to remember as well, which I think is something that a lot of people seem to forget about, you see a lot of people saying, oh, I mean, it's mainly the pundits who say, oh, Rashford deserves another chance. He's a good player. I saw Ian Wright saying, I think it was yesterday, that, Marcus Rashford's only 27 and I don't understand all of the, the desire for him to leave Manchester United and all the rest of it. And I'm like, if you had a player like Marcus Rashford who's clearly got the talent, that's not the debate. The debate has never been about whether Marcus Rashford has the talent, okay? For me, the debate is whether he has the desire and the mentality anymore to continue as a Manchester United player. And I think the answer to that is no. But the point I was trying to make here, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, is so say you got 40 million for Rashford, 100% profit, right? He's got 4 years left on his current contract. At the moment, he earns £16 million a year in wages. So if you look at how much money we would be paying him over the next 4 years, it is somewhere around £75 million, roughly. Okay, so you take the £75 million worth of wages, plus you add the £40 million worth of transfer fee, which is 100% profit. You're looking at about £115 million worth of savings there. So that's how we can then go and buy someone like a Gyökeres, someone like an Edison from Atalanta. Like, we would then have the spending power. So I know at the moment it seems a little bit unrealistic. People are like, how are we going to afford Gyökeres? The simple answer is you spread the transfer fee on your books. So on your books, for your financial fair play, you spread it over a certain amount of years. So yeah, that's how we would do it. But yeah, let's do a little poll and see what people think. So we'll do this. We'll do it a simple one. We'll do, should United sign... So we'll do, should United sign Gyökeres for 58 million? There we go. So yeah, you can go and get involved in the poll now. Should Manchester United sign Gyökeres for £58 million? Obviously, if you're watching this video back on repeat, you can obviously get in the comment section. Somebody in the chat says that apparently it can only be done over a 5-year period. Okay, cool. You get what I meant though. So say the transfer fee was 60 million, you could spread that over 5 years, 12 million a season. So that was the point I was making, that it's not like we literally have to put 58 million on one tax year. It could be spread over a certain number of years. So that's how it could work. But yeah, I think if we could get Gyökeres, it would be an absolutely quality signing. Obviously, he's a little bit older than Højlund, isn't he? He's a little bit more experienced. He's been scoring 30 goals a season consecutively for quite a long time. I think Rasmus Højlund definitely has a bright future. He's still very young. He's only 21, remember. Gyökeres is 26. He's 5 years ahead of him. He's been playing international football for a long time. It's a completely different comparison, and we obviously know that Gyökeres and Ruben Amorim have a very good relationship together. And maybe there's even a world, right, in some games where you have Gyökeres and Højlund on the pitch together. We've obviously seen Xerxes and Højlund on the pitch together. So there's no reason why we can't see Gyökeres and Højlund on the pitch together, you know? So there's this whole assumption in the fan base that if we sign Gyökeres, Højlund's just going to be kind of disposed of. But I don't see it like that. One's an experienced striker in Viktor Gyökeres, and the other's an up-and-coming striker. One's a player who this season alone has scored 27 goals already. Gyökeres, 27 in only 25 games. And he's got 5 assists, 32 goals and assists in 25 games already. Okay? That's just in one season. If you look at his stats for last season, 43 goals and 15 assists in only 50 matches. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal stats. If you were to compare that to Højlund, obviously I know they're playing in different leagues. I appreciate that. Højlund's got 7 goals so far this season and 1 assist. Okay? So the point I'm making here is that Gyökeres is clearly an experienced, more developed striker than Rasmus Højlund, and that's exactly what we need. Højlund's only 21. He's got his whole career ahead of him. You know, if you think that Ahmad's only just started playing first-team football and he's, 23, I think? Højlund's been playing, Ahmad's 22. But you know the point I'm making. Like, a lot of these players are still very, very young. I mean, Gyökeres is still young. He's 26. But, you know, you would sign Gyökeres and he would probably be at the club for 6, maybe 7 years tops. And then he'd be like in his 32, 33, and they'd probably look to move him on. Whereas, you know, Højlund could literally be here for the next 10 years easily. So could Amad Diallo if they continue performing. So, yeah, that's my take on that. But obviously, you can let me know what you think about that in the comments section. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour and drop a like, that would be really, really appreciated. We've got over 300 people watching live now, which is amazing. If you can all go and do that right now. And if this is your first time watching as well, please make sure to subscribe. I've just dropped a link into the chat. So, go and do that. We're trying to get to 40,000 subscribers, so go and do that if you haven't already. Stefan says we should also look at Jonathan David. He will be a free agent in the summer. Yeah, I don't know about Jonathan David. I think he's okay. I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced on him, to be completely honest. I don't know. How does everyone feel about Jonathan David? Let me know in the comment section. I think he'd be an okay option. I can see someone else asking me how many goals he scored in the Championship. In the Championship, he got 31 goals and assists in 46 matches. I mean, that's still pretty good, I think. 31 goals and assists in 46 matches. That's Viktor Gyökeres. Let's see what else we got in the chat this morning. Joshua says, what about Lookman from Atalanta? I think he would be a good fit. Lookman. I mean, Lookman's a decent player. Is he on the level of a Gyökeres? I don't think so personally, but I wouldn't be totally against it. Like, if you had like a tier list, right? Gyökeres would be number 1 for me. Then I'd probably say... This is based on realistic options, you know. Obviously, we can't get like a Haaland or a Ollie Watkins or someone like that. Like, they're not going to come to Manchester United at the moment because of the amount of money it would take. But like, based on realistic options, I'd probably say Gyökeres would be the number 1 priority for me. Then I'd probably say it would kind of be someone like a Lookman or a Kolo Muani or a Jonathan David or someone like that. You know, that would kind of be the pool that I'd be looking at. But I still do think that Gyökeres would be an absolutely phenomenal signing. Although, in all fairness, you know, Lookman has had a good season for Atalanta so far. He's doing really well over there. He's got, I think it's about 16 goals and assists already this season in only 19 games. So he's doing well as well. But it's just not quite on the level of Gyökeres. Stefan also says that we should be looking for a new goalkeeper. Onana and Bayinda are both really poor. I mean, you make a point, don't you? Because at the moment, we are scoring goals, but we're also conceding goals. And if our defence was really, really stable, say like Arsenal's is, where they don't concede many goals, we'd be in a much better position. And I know that sounds a little bit obvious, but the goals that we give away are quite embarrassing 99% of the time. Like, I don't remember the last time someone scored like a really well-worked goal against us. You know, it's always mistakes. It's always a player not marking. It's a player not jumping at a corner. And, you know, hopefully that can be resolved by Amorim. You know, hopefully he can get these mistakes out of these players, because if he does, I think, you know, we have the foundation to kind of build from there. But no matter how many goals you score, if you're conceding silly goals every single game, you're making it difficult for yourselves, aren't you? And that was the case against Tottenham, wasn't it? We both, Tottenham and Manchester United, conceded loads of silly goals. But yeah, let's move on from that. Let's talk about Edison? Atalanta from Edison. Oh, I've got that wrong. Edison from Atalanta. Getting my words mixed up today. I do apologise. Let me just have a little sip of my water. In fact, that was a big sip of my water. But right, yes, let's move on to Edison. A player I really like. Obviously, we're not talking about the goalkeeper from Manchester City. We're talking about the central midfielder who plays in the Serie A for Atalanta. So this story is coming out from Florian Plettenberg this morning. And the headline is that decision makers at Manchester United are fully convinced of Edison's abilities. He goes on to say that United have gathered all the necessary information and have scouted him multiple times. It says that Atalanta value Edison at 50 to 60 million euros. What's that in pounds? Let me have a look. Okay, so it's about 40 to 45 million pounds. I don't think that's unrealistic, to be fair. I think that's probably quite reasonable. He's obviously done really well for Atalanta, hasn't he? 25 years of age. Would massively help our midfield issues because, like, realistically, I don't think Bruno Fernandes can play in that deeper role. I mean, he can just about do it. I personally think that, for me, Kobe Mainoo needs to be further up the pitch. I think Bruno needs to be further up the pitch. Casemiro's legs are pretty much gone, right? So the only really defensive holding midfielder we have is Manuel Ugarte. Ericsson can't do it. Who else is there? Toby Collier obviously can, but he's still like a youth player. We don't really have a player to accompany Ugarte, in my opinion, because I think genuinely, the Mainoos, the Brunos, etc., should all be further up the pitch, really. I think that's where they're better suited. And obviously Edison would be absolutely perfect for that because, he is more of a defensive-minded central midfielder, but he can obviously operate as an attacking midfielder as well. He'll have 2 years left on his contract when the summer comes around, so not that much. 25 years of age, so the age profile works. I'm sure he would love to come to Manchester United, realistically. It would be a step up from Atalanta, let's be fair here. I think he'd be a decent option. I think he would be a decent option. 50 million euros, I think, seems reasonable. It's about 40 million pounds. It's not a crazy amount of money in football terms. I can actually see it. I could see a midfield two of Edison and Ugarte, and then, like a Bruno, Ahmad, and a Mainoo or a Garnacho or someone, whoever, up in the attacking area. So yeah, I like the sound of that. I like the price that's being quoted. Obviously, there will be a lot of interest in this guy. I could see him going to a Man City. I could see him going to a Liverpool. Like, he's a quality player. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. But I think, Edison could be a really interesting option. So yeah, let's wait and see what happens there. Let's move on to Mason Mount, though, shall we, quickly? Because there's more bad news around Mason Mount. The Mason Mount situation is just frustrating, isn't it? Really, really frustrating. I feel sorry for him, obviously, but I don't know. I feel sorry for him on a human level, on a personal level. But at the same time, I'm like, what do we do here? So Mason Mount has come out and put a statement about his injury. And the general headline is that he's had another setback and he's probably going to be out for quite a long time. That's the general headline. He's written, "Words can't portray how devastated I'm feeling right now. You could probably see the look on my face when it happened. I knew what it meant for me." So, he's implying that it's a bad injury. "United fans, you may not know me too well yet, but one thing I can guarantee is I will never give up or lose faith. I've said this before, but I will continue to give everything, get through this tough period, and won't stop until that's achieved." So that was Mason Mount's post on Instagram he put up last night. But I mean, the most important bit of that statement was the bit where he says, "You could probably see the look on my face when it happened. I knew what it meant for me." And he's effectively saying he's going to be out for a long time, realistically. He is injury prone. Chelsea pulled the wool over our eyes. They did us dirty. I feel bad for him, though. I actually quite like Mason Mount. I actually think that Mason Mount in that Ruben Amorim team would have been perfect in one of those attacking midfield positions. Like, I would much rather him in the team than a Rashford, genuinely. In this specific setup, I wouldn't have Mason Mount as a left winger, but in that left attacking midfield or the right attacking midfield position, I actually thought he looked quite decent there. So it is a shame. It's a massive shame because he was a player we invested heavily in. He was a big name signing for us. And last season was awful, and this season has also been awful. So yeah, I don't know. It's obviously not good at all. Ruben Amorim has said the following on Mason Mount. He says, he was asked about Mount's injury problems, and he says, "That's not my job. What I can do is help Mason Mount. I can teach him how to play our game while he's recovering. Try to use that time to think about different things." I mean, I guess that's all we can hope for here is that, Mason Mount properly studies how Ruben Amorim wants to play football. So then when he comes back, he can slot back into that team and he'll be able to do it because he's been learning, he's been revising, he's been doing his research, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's not good. People will say, sell him, sell Mason Mount, get rid of him. But you can't get rid of him. No one's going to buy Mason Mount. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get a single penny for Mason Mount. And as somebody says in the chat, like, obviously we feel bad for him on a human level. But it is one of the worst transfers in our history, I would say. To give him the number 7 shirt, to give him 250 grand a week, and for him to just be injured all the time. Him to come back for a game and then be injured again for 2 months. I mean, it genuinely, I would say, Mason Mount is the worst transfer in the last 10 years. And it actually kills me to say that, because I actually think he's a decent player. And it's not really his fault, is it? I think if anything, it's the fault of the people who scouted him, the doctors at Manchester United. Like, how is it that they've signed a player who's just injured all the time? Surely they must have seen this before. They must have seen the signs. I don't get it, Like, what was his injury record like before he came to Manchester United? Let's have a little look. And the fact that he's on 250 grand a week as well. I mean, it's pretty weird, isn't it, right? I'm looking at his injury record. So Mason Mount, first season at Chelsea, he missed 1 game all season. Second season, he missed 1 game all season. Third season, he missed 4 games. And then his final season with Chelsea, he missed 13 games. So it started to kind of build up then. But then as soon as he came to Manchester United last season, he missed 27 games for injury. I mean, a lot of it does seem to be like ankle injury, hamstring injury. It's all different injuries. He's got a hamstring injury at the moment. He's had a calf injury. He's had a pelvic injury. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a real shame. And I feel sorry for him on a human level. But from a Manchester United's perspective, it's an absolute disgrace of a transfer. And I think that's putting it lightly. He's still only 25 as well. He's got a contract for 4 more years. And we paid 65 million euros for him. 250,000 a week. So far this season, right, he's played 400 minutes. Which is what, 4 games worth of matches? If you compare that to, say, Bruno, right, who plays in the same position. Let's have a look at Bruno's minutes for this season. Whatever you think of Bruno, this is a good comparison. So Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount, they both play in the same position for Manchester United. Bruno's played over 2,000 minutes so far this season. Mason Mount's played 400. So Bruno's played 5 times the amount of games. And it's not because Bruno's dropping Mason Mount. It's just because he's injured all the time. He'll come on for 10 minutes. He'll come on for 5 minutes. He'll play 1 half and then he'll have to go off. Like, yeah, it is frustrating, but what can we do? Nothing really. I guess we've just got to back him and hope that he comes good. But I'm gonna wrap the video up here, guys. I'm gonna leave it. It's been a good show this morning. Thank you very much for joining me. And my video seems to be buffering a little bit, so I'm gonna leave it here. Please make sure to drop a like before you leave. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. As I said, we are so close to this 40,000 subscriber mark. I really want to hit it by the end of this year. So go and do that now. Go and subscribe. Let's get to this 40,000 mark. I'll be back tomorrow morning as usual. Thank you very much for joining me. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Bye for now.